What's up, everybody? Welcome back to my channel, Clemente Collector. And today is actually a really cool video. It's a collaboration with two other content creators. We're going to be talking about the fact that PSA and SGC are choosing not to grade some obscure sets. And it's really getting frustrating to a lot of collectors out there. I'm going to talk to these two collectors about two bad experiences that they recently experienced, and we will discuss how this is going to impact grading moving forward.
Batting third, playing right field, number 21, Roberto Clemente.
All right, so here they are. So we got Brent here. Brent, this is your first time on my channel, Clemente Collector. Thanks for coming, man.
Hey, man, thanks for having me.
You bet. So, Brent, if somebody hasn't been to your channel before, I will have it in the info, but can you let them know where to find you?
Yeah, I kept it pretty simple. Brent Richards and baseball cards. So that's all it is. That's all it is. Real easy to find.
Awesome. And then I also have my buddy Josh. He's been on For Collectors before, but I don't think he's been on Clemente Collector. So, Josh, thank you for coming also, buddy.
Thanks, Theo. What's up, Brent? Good to meet you.
What's up, man? I was telling Theo it's fortuitous because we were supposed to be on with Dylan and that didn't work.
I know.
So here we are. It was meant to be.
That's right.
It was. So, Josh, I would say tell everybody your channel name, but I think it's right there on the screen, right? So go ahead, though.
Just Vintage Card Wonderland. You can search it on YouTube, and that's the name of the channel. So,
cool.
And yeah.
Awesome. Well, Josh loves the Venezuelan cards. If you haven't seen the channel, and he's actually going to talk about a story about Venezuelan cards. So that's really cool. So, guys, Josh reached out to me a couple weeks ago and told me about this interesting story that he had unfold with a friend, and I said, man, we need to roundtable that on my channel after it comes out on your channel. And we had this all set up, and then I was at my house. I think it was Sunday, and I'm watching. I see Brent has a video about a similar experience, and I'm like, oh my gosh. So I was like, Brent, you want to come on tomorrow with me and Josh? So that's how we came together. But let me go to the backstory of everything, and then we'll hear some of their story. And the best part of this, in my opinion, is the end. We're going to roundtable about 6 or 7 questions about how these experiences, in my opinion, can negatively affect the hobby as a whole. And I think you guys are going to want to hear those opinions. But let me bring it up here, guys. So I want to give credit where credit's due. The first thing that put this on my radar was Mike Junkwax Hero. And I'm sure everybody out there knows who Mike is. Mike actually had a video about this 3 weeks ago. He was on the Facebook message boards, and he saw how this thread was getting a lot of traction. It's the thread's called Vintage Non-Sports Card Collectors. And I believe this was the original post that started everything. You guys can pause the screen at any time, read through these. I'm not going to read everything verbatim. You guys can see it on your screen. But basically, this whole thing said this gentleman sent in 71 cards to SGC, and 30 cards they said do not grade. 30 out of the 71.
Wow.
And he said he submits hundreds of cards to them per year, so it's not like a newbie to grading with SGC. And he basically said, like, what's going on? I had you guys graded these in the past. Like, what, other than the fact that Collectors has bought the company, what has changed, right? And then the next screen I want to show you guys is in the same thread. A different person I had a similar experience. SGC returned 4 cards that they previously graded. And then over here on the right, there's another one. Ditto, 3 cards returned, unslabbed. And then somebody at the bottom here said, at least SGC refunds. PSA does vouchers for the cards they won't grade, which we're going to actually get into because you guys had different experiences than what that says there. So I'm curious to talk through that experience with you guys. So let's start with Brent. Brent, can you give a quick background on what happened with your experience?
Yeah, in this particular case, I have 2 of these, and I've wanted to get them graded, but as a lot of people know that do watch my channel, I haven't graded in some time. I used to grade a lot. It was, kind of a fun part of the hobby until all of the issues with grading. So I haven't been doing it. But I needed to send these in because, number one, I want one of them to be graded so I can sell it. could be worth a pretty decent amount of money because both of my copies are probably the highest gradable copies there are. I think there's 1.8 among all companies, and there's only, you know, a handful that have ever been graded, period. So I said, you know, with all of the iffiness of SGC right now, and are they going to stay? Are they getting rid of them? Whatever's going on, I'm just like, I think this is the time I got to send them while I can, because I know PSA a while back stopped grading these, and I was told by somebody it was because there was some counterfeits and they couldn't tell the difference. But you know, that didn't come straight from them, but they stopped doing it. So it's kind of frustrating, but okay, I'll go to SGC, no problem. I thought this white border with the black tux would look awesome. Let's just send them now before there's any problem. I know that they've been graded, not in the old green slabs, but in actual tux slabs. I've seen it, I proved it. And it turns out that one that I showed, the 4 that's for sale right now on Fanatics Collect, is one of the guys that watches and comments on my channel. That's his card he's selling, so it's really cool. But both companies have graded them, and SGC has graded them much more recently. So I thought there would be literally no problem. But then I go on to the website. It's right there. The item's there. It's choosable. You can click on it. You can process the order. Everything, no problem. But once they got it, and then when they got around to opening it, all of a sudden I get an email saying they're sending back both cards because they don't grade them. And I was just shocked. It's like, there's no reason for this. You've already graded them recently, and there's just really no reason to do this. And they won't, you know, they won't answer your questions. They just gotta just say, hey, we don't grade them, and they just ship them back. So I'm out the shipping, I'm out the insurance both ways, probably almost $50 of my money plus my time doing all this kind of stuff for nothing. And it was super frustrating, and I had to make a video about it.
Yeah, and I think one of the other things that was frustrating for you was not only did they, I believe they had them for 1 day, so they made the decision very quickly. It seemed like, but it seems
Yeah.
like they shipped them. They took them out of the top loaders the oversized top loaders or whatever you had them in. They took them out of the penny sleeves, and then they put them back into the holder without the penny sleeve,
Yeah.
which makes little sense if you deem that card cannot be graded. Why did they do that step?
Yeah, why is it on the website, first of all? Why can you choose it and order it? But then why are they messing with it once they get it? And these are special holders, you know, they're oversized. So it's a different kind of penny sleeve and a semi-rigid that's larger. And I had just painstakingly put these things in there perfectly. Because, I mean, these things have been preserved for 44 years perfectly. You send
Yeah.
them to SGC once, and all of a sudden they're just jacking with them. And they just threw them in haphazardly back in there with no sleeve, all crooked and against the edge and everything. It just shows they don't care about your cards. They're not handling them right, which may be a large part of why no one's getting 9s and 10s back, even when they send in perfect cards, because we can't even trust how they're being handled in house.
Yeah, that's crazy. I it's very frustrating, and the backstory on this set is it was Ripken's rookie year, right?
This is before, so this is very rare. This is 1981, so it's the very first thing that pictures him in an Orioles major league uniform. So
Wow.
you have the 1980 Charlottes, which I used to have when I had my good collection, and I had a Venezuelan Ryan rookie, by the way, Josh. So that was a really
Wow.
good collection back then. But then you got the 81 minor league cards for Rochester, and people know about those, but hardly anybody knows about these. The 81 Orioles team issued postcard. And it's a team set. I have the team set, so mine's not counterfeit. But Cal Ripken Jr. is in there. So it's literally the first thing that pictures him in a major league uniform, which to me is very significant. And I
Yeah,
really wanted it slabbed. And as you know, I love Mag Pros, and I do a lot of my PC stuff in Mag Pros, but something oversized like this, you can't do that. So
right.
your only option to get it out of this flimsy holder is to get it slabbed. And of course, to sell one, I need it slabbed. And now I can't.
Yeah, that's very frustrating. Let me see what I got here. So the next slide I had here was one from the same message board. Um, so like, I'm not putting anybody's name on the screen because I didn't ask their permission, but the comment was, "Well, I appreciate the business side. I do not understand not grading things that have already been graded. I get not wanting to grade." He brought up a random Transylvania bathroom token card, but yeah, his main point is, as we just saw with your Ryan, and that's why I put this on the screen. So what changed between grading that card in the past? As you said, it was in a newer holder, So it
Yeah.
wasn't 10 years ago, right?
Right.
What changed in the company where all of a sudden that card can no longer be graded? You know what I mean? It's not a brand new thing they never seen before. So I guess
Yeah.
do you have any guesses on what changed?
I mean, the only thing I could think is when collectors bought SGC, they're starting to make them, adopt the PSA policy. And if the PSA policy already was that they weren't grading these anymore, which they did. And by the way, that one you just showed a PSA, that's in a lighthouse slab. It isn't ancient either. So it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. But that's the only guess I have, is that they just are adopting PSA's policies more now that they're, under the same roof. But I still don't get it. And why can't they all of a sudden tell a fake from a real, if that's what the issue is? And if it's not the issue, then I really don't know why they wouldn't grade it. I mean, why not
Yeah.
take our money and do it? I mean,
It's crazy. It feels like it's more work for them to send it back and frustration. But let's go to Josh's story real quick. So Josh, you want to talk through these three pictures on the screen and kind of give a background on what your story is a little bit different.
Yeah.
And I'll let you explain it. But Brent's was more on the item being deemed do not grade, and yours is more on the end of the research department is deeming it's possibly fraudulent.
Yeah.
So go ahead, Josh.
Yeah. So I had a good friend of mine who's a very seasoned Venezuelan collector. At one point, he's probably owned pretty much every big card within 59 all the way through 68, which the main Venezuelan sets go, some alternating years. But he's had all the big cards, and he recently acquired this card all the way on the right that's unencapsulated, that Mickey Mantle. So that's a 1959 Topps Venezuela Mickey Mantle, which is an extremely rare card. It's a card that was Topps printed in Venezuela. It's a much lower population card than the US variety. And not only that, it's a variant of Topps 59 Topps Venezuela. It's what's called a creamback. So in 59, they made cards with gray paper stock, and they had a smaller amount of cream paper stock. So maybe about 5 to 10% of the 59s were made with this cream paper stock. And Mantle, not only having it in any grade or any stock, is an incredibly valuable card. It's a comma card even in low grades. But in a cream variant, it's you could add a multiplier of maybe 3 to 5x to it. And so he was very excited to get this card. Two cards for comparison. The one on the far left that looks like it was chewed by some sort of a small breed dog, that's mine. That is also a creamback. And the one in the middle is another card that SGC, another creamback that SGC is graded. And so I went through VCP to find examples of creambacks, and anecdotally and through VCP, somewhere between 4 to 6 has been graded by SGC. I'm not aware of any that PSA is graded. That doesn't mean they haven't, but I was not able to find any scanned images of it. But I posted these just as comparison to show kind of the front of the card, given it's a cream stock, has a slightly more kind of yellowish, kind of more grainy look to it, versus the graybacks that are sharper in comparison. So he sent this express to PSA, I believe the $300 service level.
wow.
To be graded. And I think they had it probably about 36 hours before they sent it back to him with an N4 designation, which is concern for the card being counterfeit. So he responds to PSA with a link to email, saying, hey, I would really appreciate it if you looked at this card again, because it, the creamback in particular has certain telltale features to the card that can differentiate it from a grayback. It's got a particular printing defect between the 53 and the 54 years on the back. So at the top of the screen there, those kind of those circles at the top. It's hard to see, but right between the 53 and the 54 on every one of the cream backs, you can see this printing defect on my card, on the one SGC graded, and then on his card. And they will all have the Impreso and Venezuela trademark on the bottom. But it's a very particular telltale feature that's very diagnostic for that particular paper stock and that exact card. Not like every 59 Venezuela card has it. It's that particular card, that particular stock. It's almost like a fingerprint for the card. And so for someone to go and know not only how to recreate the paper stock, but also fake that exact printing defect would be extremely unlikely. So he had emailed them that particular notation, say, hey, would you take another look at it? It has that particular printing defect on this card. All of them do. And they have the examples that they could check in their system. But they basically said, no, we're very confident in our grading. It's looked at by 2 different people. We feel strongly about this, and sent it back to him. So then he immediately turns around and says, well, okay. Not to mention, by the way, we think it's counterfeit and we're not refunding your $300.
Yeah, and the other part that was interesting,
Wow.
sorry to interrupt you, Josh. The other part that's interesting about it is the $300 value. They have part of that $300 is you get grader's notes, but after you dug in deeper, there's a clause in there that says if we deem your card as fraudulent or fake or whatever word you want to use, grader's notes are no longer going to happen, because essentially they're saying that they're going to help the criminals by telling them what they did wrong, so the criminals can adjust. Is that right, or am I misspeaking?
That was exactly their argument in the email. We don't want to give the criminals too many clues by telling why we deemed it fake. Okay.
So let me push back on that for a second. Okay, let's play devil's advocate. Your friend bought the card from somebody, right? A source that he trusts, let's just say, and he says, if PSA is specific with him and says this is fake because we went in it with a magnifying glass and we saw X, Y, and Z, I feel like you could take that back to the seller. And now, to me, everything feels a little bit better. The seller feels better about it. Like, I don't think the seller probably knew about it. Let's just hypothetically say, like, everybody feels better. But now you go back to the seller and say, hey, PSA thinks this is counterfeit, but they can't tell me why. To me, like now you're in that weird limbo stage where
it's problematic.
It is problematic. And not to mention the source of the card was from Venezuela. So you also have the origin of the card from the country from which it was produced. So that's assuming you trust whatever the quote unquote expert was who looked at the card, which we can get into later. But as we've seen, many of us could hang our hat at PSA or SGC and do just a fine job having all the background and knowledge that we have that are far superior to probably most of the people there. So I don't really place a whole lot of confidence in it. The other thing the interesting thing about the front of this card is it's almost miscut. It's very off center. And if you're going to, another telltale sign, if you're going to counterfeit a card, to have it, cut that way is would be another really unusual thing. Not that you couldn't do it, but to have like evenly, honest corners and have that kind of a cut that also to me lends more credence to it.
If you're going to counterfeit, why not have the card centered? Why not
have it centered? Why not have it? Again, that doesn't prove it's real.
Right.
But the other thing that I think throws the graders is the coloring on the front of the card. It looks very grainy, and that's all the creambacks look like that. Like, not to cut you up, but like the Willie Mays, this is a creamback Willie Mays. See how grainy it looks? It's yellowish, and this is the Willie Mays. It's like a weird kind of grainy yellowish discoloration of his face. The grayback looks totally different, way sharper registration. And then the same thing with the mantle. It has that kind of very grainy look to it. It looks kind of like it's printed on a printer or something. And that's just, I think, a function of the printing on that particular paper stock. That's what it looks like versus a grayback. Sorry. Let me show you the Barra. The grayback again, no, not glossy, but sharper and
Mhm.
different kind of coloration of the back.
Mhm.
So same thing with the Minoso or the stand. So, you know,
it's crazy.
so he gets this card back and he says, okay, PSA isn't going to give my money back. I will turn it to SGC, get it graded. SGC is the leader in vintage. They'll slab it. They've encapsulated multiple 59s before. And so he sends it to SGC, and SGC has it less than 24 hours before he gets a notification that the card is being shipped back to him. And SGC, I don't know if you have a slide of that, Theo, or not. It's okay if you don't.
No, I
SGC
don't.
basically sends it back in a holder that says counterfeit on it. And he emails SGC, and SGC is basically like, rather than PSA saying we suspect it's counterfeit, SGC is like, we are 100% certain this card is counterfeit. We are like, there's no doubt in our mind this card is counterfeit. Again, does not give a reason. And unfortunately, I'm sorry, we cannot refund your money. So I think he paid like $270 or something like that for an expedited review for SGC.
Wow.
So now he's
That's
out
crazy.
almost $600 plus shipping. So for a card that's deemed quote unquote fake, but not given any reasoning as to why, and with the knowledge that he has, knowing that the card is not, particular certain types of diagnostic features that he's seen, having owned both cream and gray variations himself. So
it looks to me like the SGC is not designating these as graybacks or creambacks.
no, they never have. PSA or SGC have never designated them. And so when you look up images in VCP, you have to look at the scans. And it's
That's
interesting,
what I was going to
the
ask.
grayback Mickey Mantles have a printing defect as well in a different location. On the bottom left back of the card, there's a printing defect in the exact same spot on the graybacks. I don't know what was going on. I don't know if the same printing defect was somehow shifted or what, but it's in a different spot. So you can even differentiate a gray versus a creamback. So no, they don't differentiate one from the other. But within the Venezuelan collectors, it's kind of widely known that creambacks are very rare, and for that reason they command a premium.
And to fake this type of card, like I talked to Jason before, everyday card collector, because he works in printing, and he said like, and granted, I don't want to speak for somebody on this particular situation. I'm just saying, paraphrasing what he's talked to me about before. He said essentially you would have to find the exact paper that they used back in that time frame. You'd have to find the exact type of printer that they don't even produce anymore, and you'd have to use old printer technology. Like it's pretty crazy to think about the steps somebody would have to take to. It doesn't add up to me personally, to be honest.
Yeah,
No.
and if they didn't give credence to the creamback and they never slabbed any ever, I would feel differently. But if you're showing some that are already slabbed, and then once again now they're just saying this one is not, I just don't know.
Yeah. Yep. I mean, we can get into later on down the road about why I think that is, but I think it's multifactorial about as it relates to time, money, experience.
Yeah, and I have some questions that will go into that, Josh.
Yeah.
So let's go to the first one. Here it is right here. I'll let you start, Josh. So why, this is just all our opinions. Why are these grading companies grading less different types of cards now? Is it efficiency? Is it experience and training? Is it none of the above? Why do you personally think that the grading companies are choosing now to be a lot more selective on what they're allowing to be graded? So go ahead, Josh.
I think it's all of those. I think efficiency. I think when collectors purchased SGC, I think multiple people have mentioned this. You had mentioned this, I believe, too, Theo, that a lot of the graders were shifted, particularly the vintage graders, over to PSA to handle some of that volume. So I don't think anybody really knows the infrastructure that SGC has now and how many of their experienced graders still remain. And so whoever is still there, they're trying to probably grade, keep up with demand, as we've seen their wait times go out to 3 to 4 weeks, and with people that are less experienced. So they probably may have chosen, in the interest of efficiency, to grade all the mainstream sets and focus less on R&D, identifying these obscure sets, and rather focusing on the volume, because I'm sure that from above, PSA has kind of pushed that that narrative for people, and then you have a lot more less experienced people coming in that they're trying to train up to keep up with the volume at PSA, that just don't have the knowledge or the training. And so in their mind, I think so I think there's a focus on a quick turnover, because for a company like PSA or SGC, if you can grade 10 or 20 cards in the time it would take them to research one, to them that's a lot worth it to maybe not even bother. But if you're going to argue that that's the case, then you shouldn't be charging collectors. You should just be auto rejecting, sending the card back. We're sorry. Kind of similar in your case, Brent, although it's not acceptable in either case. At least you didn't get charged grading fees, which I think is egregious, to charge a grading fee for a card that these companies might be auto rejecting. So I'm not 100% sure there's transparency there. We don't know who looked at the card, how many people looked at the card, for how long, whether they did any research and identification of the set that they have in their system, or whether or not they literally said, nope, we're not going to grade this, let's just send it back. But say we looked at it and charged the collector. I don't know. I mean, if that's really happening, that's hugely unethical. I would hope that's not the case. But if that's not the case, then you need to at least provide an explanation as to why you felt the way you did, because I don't think that's acceptable if someone's paying that much money. So in answer to your question, I think it's all of the above. And I think it's, there's just a lot of unknowns as to the state of SGC and who's working there right now, and the overall, inner workings of PSA, other than having, they had a grader recently. They had Professor PSA. I'm trying to remember the channel where he had
Sports Cards.
Professor Sports Cards had a grader on from PSA, and then he got, PSA basically slapped him on the wrist, said, "Hey, you don't do that again. You can't be get a." It
was actually not a grader. He was actually in the research department.
You're right. He was in the research,
which is actually convenient, because it's what we're talking about. Really, the research department is stopping these cards from getting to graders, essentially.
Yeah.
So same thing to Brent, though. Did Josh not cover any? Like, is your opinion the same as Brent's? What's your thoughts?
Yeah, very similar. But why did the research department have to take my cards out of the holders and out of the sleeves and do all that nonsense if they're not going to grade it or whatever? It makes no sense at all. They're incompetent. But yeah, efficiency, certainly. Why? They don't have to. That's the short answer. They don't have to. They have plenty of business. They have plenty of things they can grade. I mean, by God, they're grading more Pokemon now than they're grading all sports cards combined. Rounded corner cards with no parallels. I mean, it's as easy as it comes. We already know for a fact from many sources they only spend a few seconds with these cards, even the valuable ones. I mean, they're making decisions that are thousands of dollar decisions in a few seconds, and there's too much volume to have that many qualified people. So it's a bunch of people that aren't. And the difference between a 10 and a 7 is monumental, and that could literally be the same card now. So efficiency for sure is part of it, and experience and training, they don't want to deal with that. I just don't think they want to deal with having something slabbed and having a story come out that, hey, they slabbed a fake. They stopped grading the Star Company Jordans and those cards for a long time, until someone that knew what they were doing went and met with PSA and told them. But I think the only reason PSA reversed their decision on that is because the fame and the fortune that comes from these Jordan cards being slabbed in their holders. No one cares about a lot of this other stuff, so they don't have to. Is the short answer.
I think one of the other reasons they started grading the Star Jordan cards is because they know the massive upcharges they can have when they encapsulate those things, tens of thousands of dollars.
That's big time money in those, and big time popularity. They know it's going to be splashed everywhere. On all the graded ones, but a lot of this other oddball stuff, I mean, they don't need to, and they're not putting in the time and effort to do it now, which is very, very frustrating.
Well, my big issue, Brent, and we didn't really hit on it that hard here, is and it goes back also to the initial post that was on Facebook from that group. The one guy said he sent in what 70 cards and 30 came back. Well, back to your original point in your video too is why didn't you flag me when I was filling out the form? Why
Yeah.
why is your technology that bad that I fill out the form, I tell you exactly the card and the set, and you don't tell me no, no, no. That's not a card we even grade anymore. You just let me send it in, and you let them send in the 30 cards and
Yeah.
send them back. Why is your system that archaic that
They-
that when you
That's
get but when you guys get it, you know it's you obviously are typing something in the computer and it's saying, nope, we're not grading that set, right? So where's
yeah.
the disconnect? You know what I mean?
That was my original problem, and that's originally why I made the video. And then I could tack on the fact that why in the heck did they take these out? Because if it's I'm telling you what the card is. You don't have to take it out to look at it. Plus, it's a clear holder. You can see what it is as far as just what the card is. You're not grading it, so you don't need to inspect it out of the holder. It makes no sense whatsoever. But yeah, why? I gave credit a little bit to PSA. I don't give them much credit, but the one thing I gave them credit on is at least if they're incompetent and they can't do this anymore, at least they say it on the website. No
Yeah.
longer grading. But SGC said nothing about that. It just you can click it, you can order it, you can do everything, and then until they opened it, I didn't even know that they couldn't grade it. That to me is just crap.
Yeah. Let's go to this here. This is the only reason why I put his name on here is because he's friend of the channel, friend of me. Howard Chasser actually got on that message board and basically said, if you think about it from an investment return standpoint, it will become clear why it doesn't make business sense to grade any company to grade obscure issues. They need to invest in a decent amount of time in educating themselves on the nuances, credibility of in particular issues, always greater risk of making costly mistakes due to lack of knowledge, and for what return, question mark. If the issue is so obscure, how much money can you or make from it? As you guys said about the star card, you can make a lot from the star card. How much are you making off the Ripken card? Probably $30, right?
Mhm.
Then the third party grading began, and the focus was on everything that they could authenticate and fit into the holder. Now it seems like it's a lot less focused on that and more on money. Why devote resources to an issue they may only grade 10 or 20 of instead of 100? So I definitely hear Howard's point of, you know, it feels like maybe PSA had a lot of these systems in place, and it's one of the few things it feels like PSA might be moving to SGC. Is I call it like taking a burger restaurant and converting it to a McDonald's. You want the assembly process of same sandwich, same sandwich, same sandwich, same card, same card. They don't want they want a grader to grade 50 cards in an hour. They don't want them to grade 20 because they got all the obscure cards. I mean, I I can't I can't say I don't disagree with Howard's take, but I don't like the fact that it's perfectly fine because it's business. That's my problem with it.
Yeah, I mean, not everything in life is equal. I mean, I'm in business. I mean, there's jobs that are better than others. That just to me is obvious. I mean, but you got to
Yeah.
take them all. It's all a pie. You can't just cut out the little ones. It just doesn't make any sense to me. They should do the research. But the other problem I have is like, okay, if they've never seen the card before and they don't want to do research and all that, okay, fine. But they've slabbed these cards before, and now all of a sudden they're not. That
Right.
that to me is a different subject.
Yeah, I mean, I think PSA has just grown so massively that at this point they're just printing cash, and they're like, the more cards we grade, the more cash we're going to continue to print and get these through. But I guess I would argue if I think it just kind of proves what we already know is that they're not in it for the collector at any
They don't
point.
care.
They don't
They don't
care.
care.
They know it's a business. And I think that's kind of something about the hobby in general that I think is turning a lot of people off right now with fanatics, the price of wax, with the grading, everything else. It's not the innocence of collecting is gone, and now it's a money making endeavor. And the people that are in it to slab cards they enjoy, these obscure sets or cards, they're just, to them there's no money in it. There's time is money, and any time they waste on this is money they're losing, not grading more cards. But I guess what I would argue is if you're going to send a card in, like in my case, at a higher price point, if you're going to pay $300, the equivalent of what, maybe grading 10 cards, I don't think it's unfair to expect them to take extra time to look this over, do the research, give you an explanation as to why they, you're paying extra money. You're paying 10x the money for some higher end cards, much less a Mickey Mantle card, which is, so, but in general, if they're not willing to do that, then they just have to be more transparent. Like Brent was talking about what they're willing to grade and what they're not willing to grade up front. So we don't risk our cards in the mail and risk our cards getting damaged, because that's not fair either.
It's not fair at all. I mean, if you can choose it on the website and order it, I think you have to honor it. That's just the way I feel. They're not collector friendly at all. I mean, I hate the name collectors for their company. I mean, it's the opposite of what they are. They don't care about collectors at all. They just want to make money. They don't want to help us out. They just want to do what makes them the most money and screw everybody else. And that's what I don't like.
Yeah, it is very frustrating. So I brought up this example here. This is a brand new slabbed. I love The Dark Knight, one of my favorite movies of all time. This is not my slab, but so maybe I'm off base. They're willing to take time to grade a random movie ticket from AMC Movies of The Dark Knight, but they're not willing to take time to grade a sports card. That I just to me, I feel like I could fake that movie ticket a lot easier than I could that Cal
exactly.
card.
And there was a billion different types of tickets printed at different.
So are you asking us to choose the Dark Knight encapsulated ticket or the Cal Ripken?
I mean,
I mean, if you ran a grading company, which would be which one is harder in your opinion? Which one has more issues with grading? Like which one would have more fakes? I don't know.
It's crazy. The tickets people want.
There's a billion variants of that ticket, and there's only one type of the Ripken. It's much easier.
It's the AMC variant though, and the AMC variant I think is extra. It's a rare variant over the sin mark. I don't know. We have to look at that. That's crazy. I mean, it's just silly. It's silly. We've entered the silly era of what we literally would love to just dump our money in the trash at this point. It's crazy. I mean,
the poor guy got a 7 on that ticket too. Like he couldn't even get a 10.
The encapsulated ticket from Babe Ruth's called shot next to this Dark Knight ticket, and let's see which is aesthetically more pleasing. But I mean, this is I don't know. Nothing else to say on that one.
All right, here's a real question. So, might PSA or SGC eliminate more oddball sets in the future? So this is my smoking gun. This is why I wanted to do the video. It's very, very frustrating what happened and what's happening to collectors that used to use SGC to grade obscure sets. But what if this is just the beginning? Like, I don't think people are thinking about that. They think, okay, we know the game. We know what they're willing to grade now. They think they know. What if they change the playbook again? To me, that's not off the table. I don't know. What do you guys think? Is it still on the table that they could grade even less sets in the future?
Sure, of course it is. Why not? They change the playbook and they don't even tell us about it all the time. They change the way they grade and they don't tell us. I mean, this just they don't care. They're not going to communicate. But yes, absolutely, they will grade less and less. To me, at least take it off your website if you're going to do that.
Well, and then you also, I mean, I agree. I think they are going to grade less and less, particularly of the more obscure sets. But then, it calls into everything into question. I mean, what your registry, like, okay, with the pop counts of some of these rare sets that they've graded, what do you do with that? Or, I think it's the mainstream, as Mangini would love the term oddball, the mainstream oddball sets are still probably going to be okay. Like the food issues, like I think those are probably like they're somewhat oddball but mainstream, like there's enough of them out there. I think most of the Venezuelans I think will probably be okay. But the more obscure like sets where there's a handful in the pop report, I can't see them taking the time to do that, with the exception of if it's a big player, if it's like a Ruth or a Cobb or a Gehrig, maybe. But could see this as an opportunity for another company to step in who is willing to take the time to do that. We'll just have to see what happens. But absolutely, I think they will continue to eliminate anything that's taking away from their bottom line. I think they would, and not only their bottom line, but just the graders just don't have the experience for a lot of these.
They don't have
really
experience for
odd
regular
varieties.
cards.
Right. Exactly.
We're actually going to get to that in a little bit here.
Okay.
A little foreshadowing here. All right, this is the next question. Will this make the graded version? I don't know why I hate saying the word graded version, but will this make the graded version of these cards worth a lot more?
They all, yes, yes, and it's interesting you say that, because I did recently that video of the Sporting News 1966 Nolan Ryans that I have. And yes, I mean, the reason that guy's asking 57 grand for his is because it's in a PSA 9 and no one else can have one in a holder. I mean, you can't replicate what he has. So it is, in fact, even more rare. They're already rare enough. I'm very happy to have mine. Those I don't have to have slabbed. It's okay. But it's just, yes, the people that got them slabbed before, absolutely worth more.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think they'd definitely be worth more. One example that I would use is I have a T206 blank back, which is kind of like meant to be a printer scrap from the T206 set. It's not really it's technically a back, but it's not a back. But neither PSA or SGC grade them anymore. They used to grade them as authentic, but now they just decided we don't want to grade them. So now that, given neither company will recognize it, it's absolutely not worth what other encapsulated blank backs go for on auction sites, because the authenticity of it, that people just say, oh, it's a skinned card. No, it's not a skinned card if you know what you're looking for.
Yeah.
But people want that security. So for that very reason, yeah, absolutely. There's many examples of where the graded versions will be worth more, and then where collectors are stuck in limbo trying to decide what to do with cards they know are real, but wanting it to have some form of preservation and authenticity guarantee, which they can't get. So
that's where I'm at on the Ripken. It makes no sense. But yeah, people want the peace of mind. You can't resell the same when it's not graded on something that is not normal, not every day. You can call it oddball, whatever you want to call it. But if you're not giving them that guarantee, or at least the semi-guarantee that it's slabbed, people will not pay up for it.
Yeah, and Brent, you brought up another good point earlier about the registry. So if you're a Cal Ripken registry person, I'm guessing that variant, that card that you tried to sub with them is on the registry, and now there's only so many copies out there.
Yeah, and you can't get it. But I'm serious when I say there's like 2 graded by each company. I mean, these are scarce, man. And it's a couple of them graded. There's I think 1 SGC 8, and the rest of them is a PSA 4 and that kind of thing. But it's just, they're super, super rare. But yeah, if you have a registry of Ripken rookies and minor league and that kind of thing, somebody can have a complete one, but now you can't. It makes no sense.
So this is the next question to ask you guys. Why could this strategy by PSA and collectors backfire? Josh, if you want to start, why do you think this would backfire?
I mean, just like any void, another company could come in to fill it, right? So I don't think we know right now whether that'll be CGC or, another company that we don't know that exists. What's the AI grading company called?
Tag,
or I think at the end of the day, yes, the strategy could backfire, but I think in order for their strategy to backfire, collectors have to wisen up and decide what they want. You know what I mean? Like, no one's going to listen to you unless you speak with your wallet. PSA has no reason to listen to you. So if people shift their practices on sending cards to PSA and paying PSA money, and now considering PSA and SGC one and the same, which I kind of do, then you have to decide who's going to fill that void. I don't know that we know who that is yet. And PSA has such a market share, it's hard to kind of predict who that might be, but you got to think somebody might be able to come in and fill the void of some of those kind of niche sets, or having better customer service and deciding to take on certain sets and niche cards that that other companies have just washed their hands of. Because at the end of the day, if they're willing to do that and authenticate them and encapsulate them, collectors, I'm sure, will shift to those companies that are willing to do that. And so it'd be a good opportunity for a company like CGC to come in and say, hey, we should look into this, about being the company to grade things that other companies aren't willing to take a look at.
Yeah. Brett, do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's wishful thinking, but hopefully it would. But the bottom line is they're making so much, they have so much demand. The numbers go up and up and up every month, no matter how bad they are, no matter how terrible they are at grading, it doesn't matter. So I don't think it's going to backfire. But what I wish is some Beckett type company or somebody would at least advertise, hey, we will take on the collector type of cards. I don't, if they won't probably call them oddball, but if they'll do the research and do, even if it, look, even if it's a premium service, even if it does cost $100 to grade versus 15 or whatever, the people that are serious about collecting and they want these things in slabs, because you have to have the credibility. That's why I mentioned Beckett. Like, you got PSA over here and you got Bob's grading company over here. So it has to be somewhere in between. There has to be a credibility to what the slab is and what the card is in for anybody to care about paying for it anyways. So if someone like a Beckett, you could like their slabs or hate their slabs, they're pretty good at what they do. But someone like that, if they came in and actually said, hey, we will grade these things, and a lot of the people that like the vintage and oddball type cards that these big companies are rejecting for whatever reason, and we've just named a bunch of them, I think it would be helpful for the collector. Someone needs to step up and be about the collector, at least out in the public, and turn some heads that direction, because at some point it's going to shift a little bit, but I don't think it can shift enough against PSA because they're just so entrenched.
I think my pushback on your statement is, I agree with the PSA statement of it. I agree that they're pretty bulletproof at this point. I disagree with the SGC side of things, which you didn't really mention. My thought is, if somebody was an SGC person like me that uses them and loves them and hates PSA, let's say, and they send 70 cards in and 30 get rejected, that's actually a big customer for SGC. If you saw their gem rate data this past month, it was very, very low. So and we're actually going to get to the point about SGC here coming up. So we'll have time to talk about that. But that's one thing I would say is, I would say that I feel like it could very much backfire as far as SGC numbers go, because of the amount of customers.
But I don't think they care about SGC. I mean,
that's what we're going to get to.
Okay.
Just hold it. All right. So this was my experience. This is interesting. This came up. All right. So I've been looking for this card. I've been looking for it in like a, a nice between 4 and 6 type of condition. And this came up this weekend, and I was super excited because the auction was ending this weekend and I was going to bid on it. And similar to what Josh was saying earlier, of just how we're sometimes experts, more than maybe the graders are. I start looking at the back, and it's not as red as the normal back is. And then I look down at the bottom, and it says printed in the USA. And I'm like, And then I look at the flip there, and it was great. It's an 8.9, so it was graded actually pretty recently. I would say within the last year. So here's what the back of the O-Pee-Chee looks like. It says O-Pee-Chee down there. I got it circled in red, and then the one on the right there is, see how it's in French in the black?
Of course.
Underneath Major League.
Of course.
It's got the French. So here's my question for you. After seeing this card that actually sold this weekend to somebody for $115, and they think they have an O-Pee-Chee Clemente card because they might not be as savvy as somebody who looks at the cards all the time. If the research fails on a 1972 O-Pee-Chee, when are they right? Then are they actually right to narrow the sets they grade? If they can't even grade that card right, that has printed in the United States on, maybe they're doing the correct thing. Am I wrong or am I right?
They're just incompetent. Look, the volume and the demand is too high. They cannot have that many qualified people. It's impossible. So now we're at an impasse. You either wait 3 years for your cards to come back because you have good people only in there, or they ramp up the people to meet the demand, and you got a bunch of people that don't know what they're doing. Shout out to Russ collecting Nolan. He had the same thing on a Nolan Ryan card, exact same thing. All it takes is someone at home punching in O-Peachy on their form and then sending it in, and then they just assume it's the right thing when they just take a quick glance at it. And when they're handling your card for 21 seconds and then putting it in something for the next guy to encapsulate, that's all it takes. They don't know.
Yeah.
They literally don't know.
They took that card and they said, okay, O-Peachy, encapsulate.
Yep.
Rather than look for the actual features and the trademark and the coloration. I mean,
and they probably got the grade wrong too.
That happens all the time with Venezuelans. Like on 62s or Spanish backs, US get encapsulated all the time. It's across the board. Like, I mean, too many to even count. Like 64s have a black back. They're clearly different than the yellow or the orange in the US. And all the time you're putting US and Venezuelan, mixing those two. I mean, just blatant like color changes, like obvious. You take 2 seconds. It doesn't take long. It really doesn't take that long. You know, but
maybe somebody that normally researches Pokemon got this card, and I mean, what are we gonna do about it? I mean, it is what it is, right?
Very possible. That's very possible.
If PSA can't even help save people, it's sad. It's sad that we have to look. It's sad that I had to double check PSA. That's all I'm gonna say about it.
It's sad. But you know you had to, right?
Every time.
That's the reality. You knew you had to, right? Because you know too much. That's the reality of the world we're living in right now. So
frustrating.
You know, and for the person who sold that card and got, I don't know, 2.5x the value of a 5 in the US, or like what is their responsibility as the seller and as the buyer? Like that whole thing, their hands are like, oh, sale is completed. PSA said it was what it was.
If you have a problem, go to PSA, right?
PSA is a problem.
Yeah.
Here's the net. We got about 8 minutes left. We're almost done. We only have 2 more slides left. All right, here it is, Brent. Could collectors be doing this as another step to kill the SGC brand? I know everybody loves this topic. Let me just lay it out there. I know you guys probably know. It's hard to read that, but they stopped bulk subs. They moved graders to PSA. They asked Peter to leave. They stopped doing card shows. And I heard somebody reached out. I won't tell you. Somebody reached out and said, "Are you guys coming to Chantilly? SGC's always at Chantilly. Huge vintage card show." No, we're not doing any card shows anymore, is what the response was. They called the brand a boutique brand, and now they're stopping grading some oddball sets. Tell me what is, if you were running the company here and this was your playbook, what does it seem to you guys? Are they trying to kill the brand, or are they not trying to kill the brand?
I think they're trying to kill the brand, but they can't do it overnight. But to me, the linchpin was getting rid of Peter. That's when I knew that they don't care about it at all. They didn't want the competition. They swallowed them up. They were very customer focused. Now they're not. Now they're not going to grade the oddball stuff that PSA won't grade. They're sucking him into being the same as PSA, and eventually they'll go away. Peter, probably has a non-compete. He can't do anything. I wish he could start another one and just do something completely different. But someone out there needs to, with credibility, or Beckett or somebody needs to be bought and step up their game. But Peter, when they told him to leave, and they did, it wasn't him just retiring to go play golf, like he said. They fired him, and that's because they don't want to be what SGC was.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with Brent. It started with the leadership. Peter was wonderful for the brand. He was all about collectors. He was very transparent, very communicative, and that I really appreciated. And even their customer service under his leadership was very good. Immediate responses and very reasonable to deal with. And that I agree that the graders have been shifted. I think they're not doing card shows. Maybe it's a combination of they just may not have the capacity and volume of graders to put people out, or they're because they're being cut and reassigned, or PSA may be intentional to just dismantle the brand slowly. And then I guess I'm just, yes, I do think they're systematically dismantling it. I just don't understand it, because you didn't have to do that. You could have kept SGC intact, and fine, if you want to call it a boutique brand, or just call it your vintage brand branch of PSA, and beef that up and have some actual real credibility in vintage, and leave, PSA main to handle all the modern stuff. And then you could actually, kind of have two pillars of your business that are both somewhat respected. But instead, you just kind of diluted everything out and made, essentially one ineffective and useless, and then diluted out the other one just to keep up with the volume, and still one that still has no credibility. So you've destroyed credibility of both brands. And
Yeah.
I'm not really sure why. I mean, even if you had increased the price of SGC, you could have done that. You could have taken it to 20, 25 bucks a card. I think vintage collectors probably would have still paid it. We would have griped about it. But if you had kept things intact, I think people would have gladly stuck with SGC through that.
Yeah, I mean, in any industry,
Yeah.
when do you see a big company buy up a little one and just keep them running as separate? I mean, they
Yeah.
always swallow them up. They got them in for a reason. Peter was the only likable guy in the whole thing. I mean, Nat and Hogue and these guys aren't likable dudes, and no one trusts what they say. We kind of trusted what Peter says, but they shut him up as soon as they bought the company. I mean, we never heard from him again.
Yeah.
Way before the firing. And then once they fired him, I knew it's just they're going to just slowly let this go downhill. Why would you keep a company that does 5% of what the big company does?
Yeah. It's fair.
Well, yeah, and I think one thing to add on to what Josh said is I watched the interview with Neo whenever he called the company a boutique brand now, and Neo point blank said to him, so do you guys want to specialize in a certain category? And he even said, like, wink wink, like vintage. Like, he even suggested it, like, do you guys want to just have SGC be known for a certain thing like vintage? And he totally bypassed that question, said, I want SGC to just be known for whatever people want them to be known for. And I think that was very purposeful. And I'll tell you why. Because if he comes out and says, I want them to be the vintage to our modern, then it's downgrading PSA. He wants vintage collectors to go to PSA. He does not want them to go to SGC. So he did not want to put that out there, that he wants SGC to be known for vintage, because he doesn't want them to be known for vintage, right? That's my thoughts. And them stopping to do card shows, in my opinion, it's actually, they get so many submissions at card shows, it pays for itself. It pays for itself. It's a no-brainer. It's just they want less cards. So they don't want those cards. They don't want the bulk submission cards, which are easy amounts of cards for them to grade also. So their gem rate data was totally in the toilet this last month, which is not surprising to me.
It'll keep going down because people don't even know if they're going to be around. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Yeah. We got to wrap up, guys. My last question, and this is good for people that watch this video. Why don't you comment down below? If you stayed this whole time, thank you so much. If you stayed this whole time, what are collectors supposed to do? Who are we supposed to grade with now with these more obscure sets? Where are we supposed to go? I asked that question to Ryan Nolan, who was who's actually known in the space for having these obscure sets, and he said I'm honestly thinking about switching to CGC. He just said, I just don't know their slab sizes. A lot of these obscure cards have different, aren't the normal size slabs. So he said he's definitely looking into it. So let's leave that one. This was a lot of fun. If you make content and this got you thinking, I'm very happy it worked then. I want you guys to start thinking about this stuff. If you want to make a reaction video and say that we're completely wrong, please do. But just be nice about it. All right. I better wrap up, but thank you, Brett, and thank you, Josh, for coming on today.
Thanks, Theo. Thanks, Brent.
Thank you,
all right, guys. I will have their full videos down below in the info. If you want to watch their full videos, check them out. But please subscribe to these two guys' channels. They both have great channels. All right. Thank you for watching. I'll see you on the next one.
See you.
Guys.